What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the fourth and final round of feature matches for this week. Here we are at table one. We've actually got two good friends of mine at the camera, and we've got my friend Dan on the left playing Phantom Knights, aka Wumpa Knights, and my friend Adam on the right playing VW, aka that's Lulu to you, or Driver and Other Psychic Monsters. So, as these guys roll some dice or decide who goes first, let's take a look at the poll results. Ask you guys who you thought would take the dub, taking first place along with it. And looks like a majority of you guys saying VW is going to take it. So let's see if you guys are correct this time around. I believe you guys were right last time in the previous round. And by the way, if you haven't seen the previous round, I'll leave a link to it up in the top right. So PK getting started with the Torn Scales. Not Starlight, by the way. I know, absolutely disgusting. The poverty rarity over here. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, he's going to have the Kagamucha Knight to follow up. And he's going to be able to send a Cloak from hand and then dump a Gloves from deck to grave, linking to the Cherubini. But first, setting a card first as a bit of a safety net to cards like Gamma and Ghost Ogre. Because Cherubini can send any other card on the field to prevent itself from being destroyed. So that's why setting a card first there is like high-key the move. If you haven't been doing that and you are a PK player, you probably should before you lose to a Ghost Ogre or something else along the lines of it. Something that destroys, because why not set an extra card if you can spare it? But we will see him send Graph, and there is no response to the Graph. No Skullmeister, no Ash Blossom. Just going to go through summoning Seer and then going into a Link 2 with Cherubini and Seer. Going for the Rusty Bardiche, and Seer will go ahead and summon out the Cherubini. Man, oh man, every time we get to commentate over one of these Phantom Knight duels, which reminds me of good old Block BA. And speaking of Gamma, there it is, attempting to negate and destroy Bardiche. And we're going to see Bell get chained to negate the Gamma, actually. Not once per turn, by the way. And then we're going to see an Imperm follow up to respond, ensuring that the Rusty is not going to resolve this turn. So 2 hand traps burn here on 1 card, essentially. Although it did force a Bell out of the PK player's hand, which is pretty good against VW for stopping certain effects like Jean Wu, Lao Lao, and I believe cards like GG as well. So, you know, pretty good hand trap to force, especially since Gamma is not a once per turn. So this is something our PK player is going to have to keep worrying about later on in the combo. Yeah, it looks like he's going to link into Hapalooza right now, but Gamma just does not care. Gamma is just going to sit there and just keep poking you and prodding you and being like, hey, negate, like as we see right here. Why not just go ahead and try to negate the boots, right? So, because I mean, essentially, if he negates the Appaloosa, right, just go ahead and attempt to negate at some other point, you know, basically be free real estate later on. Just burn those negates off a bit. Looks like he's gonna let it go through and just pass. I mean, Gamma really never got to do its job, but I mean, it kind of honestly did a better job, forcing him to stop playing essentially. Because if he keeps going further, he's just gonna keep chaining Gamma every instance he gets, and thus keep burning the Appaloosa away, turning it into essentially a token. So he will pass turn there, and we're going to see our VW player lead with the Desires, banishing 10, and draw 2. We're going to see him normal summon Lulu, activate Lulu and hand target Lulu. You hate to see it. He's going to force Battle Phase here on that 1600 Appo, attempting to crash, but we will see a damage step droplet to have Lulu, making it so it is only 800, so we'll take 800 on the exchange there, leaving that 72. End phase, we will see a sword to bring back the Rusty, passing back to our Phantom Knight player, leading with a copy of Road. A pretty solid top deck there, if you ask me. Being able to get one of your best cards in the entire deck is pretty nice, I've heard, since all the Phantom Knight monsters are warriors. Gotta love to see that. And yeah, like I said, I always love watching these PK BA duels just because it reminds me of Block Dragon VA. Still to this day, my favorite deck of all time. And every time I watch one of these duels, I just always get reminded of how much fun it's going to be to play Phantom Knight at some point. It's a deck that I do want to play more and more every time I get to watch it on a feature match or get to play against it. And it makes me really glad to know that I have the entire Phantom Knight core ready to go to be able to play at any point on a possible 1 deck 1 month. So you never know. But we will see him summon Torn Scales, and with it Boots, since he does control Phantom Knight. We'll be able to get into Break Sword. That'll activate Rusty effect on summon to pop a set Chuche. Break Sword, popping the set Zhanwu, which can actually help here to help block damage. It will cost a discard, though, from our VW player, so we'll see if he's willing to spare that, because I could very easily see him go for a game here. Now, a little bit behind the scenes here at this particular point, there's going to be a couple cuts coming your way. I think our PK player did, I don't want to say forget, but I mean just in the heat of the moment, forgot, I guess is the only word to properly use here, that he is technically locked into Darks at this point. So he actually did end up trying to link into Phoenix, but our VW player caught it. Both caught it. They corrected the game state and just swapped his link to into an IP Masquerena, since it is still a legal target. So you guys are going to see that here in just a second. But I did want to make some edits to the video, just so the video would be a little shorter and help clear up some confusion as well. So we're going to see him make Nightmare Phoenix. Again, this is supposed to be IP Masquerena, because yes, he is locked into Darks. And I swear if I get a comment about this, even though I'm amending it right now in the commentary, oh man, I'm going to be mad. No, I'm just kidding. I won't be mad. Maybe a little bit. Maybe just a little bit mad. But either way, we're going to see him go ahead and use the Boots Engrave. That's going to add Fogblade, now using Torn Scales effect, discarding Fogblade to go ahead and send a PK to the graveyard. So we'll see what he's going to go ahead and send here. I think he's pretty low. Actually, there's no PK names in the grave currently. I think he's already exhausted the one of gloves. I think we already saw him go through that earlier on in his turn 1. So we will see what he is going to send here. Looks like it's actually going to be a copy of Stained Greaves. I believe it does have the graveyard effect to banish to summon a Phantom Knight from hand. I think if it's in your hand and you summon a Phantom Knight, you can summon it to the board and treat its level as 3 or 4. So yeah, this is where the game state is correct. As you can see, IP Masquerena is on the board, and Nightmare Phoenix is not. So game state corrected. The only other cuts you guys are going to see from here on out is basically just long bouts of thinking, essentially, because there was thinking to be done. So the Fogblade Engrave brings out the Stained Greaves, and we're going to see him then summon out Shade Brigandine, which he will use to link with IP Masquerena to go into Nightmare Unicorn in the EMZ for extra damage, going into a second Break Sword. And as it stands, he does have game on board. 22 plus 21 is 43, plus another 2 is 53 or 63, plus an extra 16. But he will have the Zhanwu on attack declaration of the Apo, which will bring out the Lulu at 16. So basically, it's either crash with the Lulu or you just pass. And you'll also get the clutch discard in that of Nyan Nyan, which is going to be pretty nice. He has Chuche, I believe, as a top deck, which is not that great. Probably wish it would be literally anything else, like City would have been really good. But he's going to use Lulu in hand, and that is going to get negated by the Appaloosa. And we're going to see Nyan Nyan attempt to activate Engrave. That's going to get negated by the Appaloosa again. And then we're going to see a rank 3 in a Fortune Tune. And again, the reason why I hate Zeus, because I made a rank 3, so now I get to board wipe you twice. Yeah, that's really fun. Whatever. So Zeus is on the board now. I mean, it's not completely game over, but the tides have definitely turned. It could go either way right now. Phantom Knight is top decking. Remember that the Rusty should be banished here. So correcting that. And now our Phantom Knight player is top decking. Looks like he drew into an E-Telly. You do hate to see that. So he's just going to set it and pass, realizing it's probably not the best idea to activate it right now, since it will lead to nowhere. You will take 3,000 to the face, because Zeus is 3k for some reason. It wouldn't have been so bad if Zeus was had less attack, so you could at least easily force it in the battle phase, but it's really hard to force a 3k monster, especially when you're in a top decking situation, or it's a very simplified game state, because oftentimes when Zeus is resolving, you are in a very simplified game state, and it's hard to play through 1 or 2 quick effect, not once per chain board wipes, right? That's my problem with the card. And yeah, it's basically going to show how, quickly this card gets on the board with how, again, easy it is to get on the board. It literally can just instantly turn the game in your favor, and you are instantly winning because of it. Our Phantom Knight player is going to draw for turn, and is going to decide to try to play into this Zeus, now that his opponent has committed a little bit by setting one. So if he does decide to Zeus here, he will have to lose a card in the process. So it's not a complete loss on the exchange. We're going to see a normal summon to our guy that is going to go through. Our our VW players probably realizing that, like, yeah, let him commit a little bit more. Let him get another body on field because it's not going to be a threat to Zeus. He's going to summon the Skarm. End phase, he'll get Tour Guide. So basically, you know, putting him essentially on somewhat of a clock here. He does have to find game, or the Tour Guide resolving next turn could be a little problematic, but he does top deck a Kowloon into the Qinglong, into Kirin, which is game. So Zeus, by the way, pretty awesome card. But I'm done complaining about Zeus, I promise. But as we head into game 2, I want to mention a quick shout out to our sponsor over at Imperium Duelist. If you guys are interested in picking up amazing playmats, sleeves, deck boxes, dice, and more, check them out at the link below. And don't forget to use my discount code WinnerKillsOff at checkout to save 10% off your entire order. And you can support the channel in the process by doing so. Same thing can be said if you guys are shopping on TCG Player. I know the Megatins are right around the corner. Let me know if you guys are going to be picking up any Megatins down in the comments below. And remember, if you are buying anything on TCG Player of that sort, don't forget to use my affiliate link. It's found in the description below of all my videos. You guys shop and check out using that link. A small bit of the revenue from your purchase will go right back into the channel and helps out a ton. I can't believe I said that all in one go. So we are ready to start game 2 here. I'm going to need like a water break or something between this. This is a long commentary, 24-minute commentary. Hope you guys are hanging in there. After a very back and forth game 1, I want to say. Now we are in game 2. And our Phantom Knight player opening really well with Tour Guide, but our VW player's like, you know what? I opened even better. And that, speaking of Ghost Belt, this Gamma is going to haunt our PK player for the remainder of his turn, having to constantly worry about Gamma at any point. We're going to see Graph attempt to activate. Our VW player does have Ash in hand, but actually deciding to hold it on the Graph, which I think would have been a pretty good idea to Ash the Graph. But then again, you know, I don't know, right? Because you're certainly not letting him resolve Rusty, even if you use the Ash, because you do have Gamma in hand. There's just no way you let him resolve it. Just no shot whatsoever. So does have Skarm on field. Looks like he's taking a little bit more of a conservative route here, not trying to go for the Seer. Or maybe he did not summon the Seer because he opened it, because I know that's why he plays the Skarm, in case he draws the Seer. It's a good alternative summoning option off of your Graph that does help you get a little bit of a recovery play in the search of Tour Guide. And it looks like we're going to see Cherubini send Stained Greaves here, and then we'll see him follow up with the Psychic Tracker. YBA no die. Did you guys see that? Did you see that Skarm not die, man? Does anybody know why the Skarm didn't die? Couldn't be me. Either way, we're going to see him link into an Appaloosa with 3 counters. We'll love to see that Gamma eat away at this Appaloosa for the rest of the turn. It's going to be nightmare fuel, man. I'm telling you, we're going to see him use Stained Greaves to bring out the Torn Scales. And we're going to see him discard the Seer for the Torn Scales. Torn Scales is going to get Ash. We're going to see Seer Effect attempt to activate. He's going to attempt a Gamma. He's going to burn an Appaloosa negate. Now he's going to go into Rusty. Attempt Rusty Effect. He's like, yep, you're going to Gamma. I'll just negate again. Probably just trying to set up at least bare minimum Fog Blade on board with Boots and Torn Scales engraved. And at least one Appaloosa negate. It's not so terrible. Now, like, what I was saying originally is, like, maybe you could have just made the Appaloosa and pass, right? But it's hard to do that because, like, VW is so good at playing Gamma. Like, it's almost too good, right? It's like the card should be banned for them. Like, they shouldn't be allowed to play Gamma. It's so good. Just because, like, if he holds the Appaloosa with 3 counters, yes, he could potentially pick off every VW name that he has, but if he sees something like City or Qinglong, it's pretty much over because he's going to be able to use all his VWs off of that. At least his first one, his most impactful one. And then after that, like, I mean, you let the first one resolve, and then after that, you don't let him resolve another one. So, like, I don't know. Maybe it would have been smart to just hold the 3 negates on the Appo, but you never know. Because now that Appo is very weak, and it will also force Fogblade Battle Phase. But we're going to see him activate E-Telly, and he'll try to use the Lau. That's going to get negated by the Appaloosa Battle Phase. Lulu is going to attack into the Appaloosa. He will use actually the Phantom Knight Sword here to protect it and also make it gain 800, and it's not destroyed that one time. He'll only take 800 in the exchange. End phase, we're going to see the Sword bring out Boots, and since the Phantom Knight card was banished, Torn Scale is going to get summoned to the board. And now he's got a nice little rank 3 play. He's going to go for Break Sword. And not summoning the zone that Rusty points to. Interesting. But he will use Break Sword, popping itself and the Chuche. So he's going to get rid of it regardless here. Attempting to use Break Sword, Effect Engrave, and he's got another Gamma. Actually, yeah, no, it's still the same Gamma. It's still the same Gamma. So he's actually just going to let it resolve this time. Probably because, like, you know, let it resolve, and that way you don't have to deal with it anymore, right? At least that's the way you could probably look at it. So he will Fog Blade, bring out the... or no, not Fog Blade, Boots to add the Fog Blade. Torn Scales will summon itself, and then using... the Torn Scales ditching the Fog Blade, dumping the Cloak effect to add Boots, because he did use the effect of Torn Scales to summon Engrave the previous turn, or during the end phase of the last turn. And then he's going to get access to another rank 3, going for another Break Sword, popping Gamma, and now using Break Sword effect again, Engrave to summon out 2. And that's risky, because he just put Gamma and Driver back in the grave. So if he had another Gamma, he technically could have done it there. I mean, you didn't need to pop both of them, I feel. Right? Maybe. I mean, Gamma's a pretty good card, and he plays into another one. Gamma's in the grave. So Raiders Knight is not going to resolve here. You really hate to see it. But I mean, hey, our PK player is getting absolutely bombarded with Gammas, but they don't mean too much if our VW player cannot draw any engine. He just needs to draw some engine here, and he's in business, but he's not drawing any engine cards, which is extremely unfortunate. This is one of those cases I've experienced countless times in this game. It's where, like, you have all the counter cards, you have all, like, the side deck cards. You are keeping your opponent at bay, doing a really good job of it, turning their engine off at every other, like, chance you get, hitting all their good extenders, starters, whatever it may be, but you can't capitalize. That is, like, one of the worst feelings. I'm sure a lot of you guys have probably been there before. Like, you have all the stops or all their plays. Maybe you're going second, right? You draw for turn, you draw another side deck card. And you're like, well, I'd love to see some engine, so you have to pass, unfortunately. And then you keep burning more hand advantage with hand traps and side deck cards, and there's just... it stops them, but, you know, you need to be able to put game on board or apply pressure. You can't oftentimes do that with just too many side deck cards or hand traps, which is unfortunately what we're seeing here. Our VW player is forced to basically just end turn. And Phantom Knight player in a pretty good position here with the Break Sword. We're going to see him banish the Cloak from the graveyard to go ahead and search a Boots. And I'm not sure if Torn Scales is engraved. Who am I kidding? Torn Scales is always engraved, so we'll get to summon out Torn Scales. And then Torn Scales effect, ditching the gloves. And I'll be able to send one. So let's see who's going to send here. A copy of Fog Blade, a.k.a. Monster Reborn. Gotta love that. All the Monster Reborns. And, I mean, right here, you just gotta put 8,000 damage on board. And you preferably want to do it in under 5 summons. Because I feel like, I mean, at this point, Gamma's or Driver's banished. You don't have to worry about Gamma anymore. You just gotta put AK on under 5. Because outside of that, Nibiru is your worst nightmare. And I believe he knows the last card in hand, too. I think he saw that it was Roshi. So, doesn't really have much to worry about. But if he didn't know the last card, playing under 5 is your best bet. Because the last thing you want to have happen is to have a fatty rock dropped in your head. Especially when you have Appaloosa on board. Even though all of its, counters are gone. But, like, still, like, you're in a winning position. Your opponent hasn't drawn anything for engine cards. Just go for a game as soon as possible. So we're going to see a Link 3. Rusty is boosted by 800 by the effective Cloak. Keep in mind, a lot of people forget about that. That's 2K, 2K, 29, and 22. That is game aplenty. And we are on to a game 3 situation. Been a pretty interesting match so far. I did speed this one up by quite a bit, as you guys can tell. So I'm trying to keep up as best I can while trying to catch as many things as I can and, properly commentate things. So if I miscommentate something, if I call it one card another name, I apologize, but I'm trying my best to keep up. Just don't want this one to be super, super long. But this one did go the distance, I assure you that, and it's very nice to see for a finals, in quote. And it's unfortunate to see that our VW player opened up the second best 2-card combo in VW, set 2 pass, one of them being Imperial Order. And our PK player opened up rather stellar, I might say, which the Torn Scales, and I believe another PK monster into Cherubini. The Graph is going to get ashed here. We're going to see him follow up with the Ready Fusion. Really good extender. It's going to be shut down by E-I-E-I-O. One of the best trap cards in the game right now. A card I'm sure everybody loves and has lost to at some point or several times maybe. I mean, I know I have. But yeah, so we did open up Torn Scales Boots, which is an insane opening, as I've heard and as I've experienced, because not only does it get you into your full combo, but it gives you tons of extension, banishing Boots to search Fog, pitch Fog to activate Torn Scales, and dumping the Cloak. Fog bringing out Cloak for rank 3 Axis. So he's going to go for the Leviair. Leviair effect, going to attempt to summon one from the Banish Zone. And he's only got one target, so it's going to be the Boots here. And there is an Infinite Impermanence. And it looks like that will resolve. No contest on that. And now we're going to see him activate Cloak in the grave to add a Phantom Knights card. It looks like he's going to grab the Brigandine. He will summon Brigandine here. He's probably hoping to set up an Appaloosa if he could. If you could have set up an Appaloosa in this game state, it would have been really, really rough. So that Imperm resolving was absolutely huge here, like especially under IO. Like really, really good. I mean, it keeps him off of Kowloon, but not off Qinglong, because if he draws a Qinglong, he can actually still play under the IO. It doesn't need the Qinglong effect to resolve, just needs the VW card on field, and that's it. But that would have been a nice 3-material Appo there. Or no, it wouldn't have been a 3-material Appo. Been close to it, though. But either way, we're going to see him swing in with the Leviair and Breaksword, set another card, and I believe that's probably going to do it for his turn. Yep, as our VW draws for turn, and takes 700 from the Imperial Order, dropping down to 34. And there's that Qinglong, Speak of the Devil, common, by the way. And we're going to see him activate Lulu. And Lulu is going to resolve here, it looks like. Yep, Lulu is resolving. It's hitting the board, ladies and gentlemen. A round of applause to my friend Adam playing VW. Finally getting to resolve some VW cards here this match. I know, right? Pretty crazy. It's unfortunate that he did kind of brick a little bit this match. He was playing a Link Apple for this tournament, but we did go to a tournament the following morning, and he did play Prosperity. I think next tournament after that he was playing Prosperity as well, and he said he did prefer it much, much better. But we're going to see all this resolving here is going to get to Kieran. Kieran's going to dump Nian Nian, or it can't dump Nian Nian here. It has to dump his Spell and Trap. So he's going to have to dump, actually just dumping one here, not dumping another. No trap card. I mean, it doesn't really need to be totally honest. So, as it stands, Shen Shen can finally be achieved, ladies and gentlemen. Finally, Shen Shen. Finally. Finally, Shen Shen, he's thinking. Battle phase, basically gets to banish whatever he attacks into. And there's a Fog Blade. Fog Blade on Shen Shen. Gets to keep the Rusty, and nothing on his field is getting banished. So that will do it for his turn. Fog Blade, I mean, Fog Blade's pretty decent counter here. Fortunate to have Chuche to back up the Shen Shen. It's one of the things that make, VW so good at putting out, like a lot of decks can make Shen Shen, but VW excels, for one specific reason, is because of a card like Chuche. Chuche being able to protect the Shen Shen from things like Fog Blade or just other cards in general. Really, really good. Unfortunately, we'll not have access to it, so we're seeing Torn Scales, Cloak hitting the board, and going into Breaksword. It's going to trigger Rusty. Rusty's going to go after the other set, the Unknown set. It is a copy of Zhanwu, which will actually use the on-field effect to turn a VW monster and change its battle position. So we will turn the Shen Shen sideways to indicate it in being in defense position. And the Rusty is gaining 800 attack because of the Cloak, so be able to easily get over Shen Shen here. Now we're going to see him activate Breaksword. Breaksword attaching Cloak, targeting Shen Shen to explode, and of course targeting Breaksword as well. And once the Shen Shen leaves, the Fog Blade will go with it, now activating the effect of Breaksword Engrave, going uncontested here to bring back both Cloak and Torn Scales, giving him access to a rank 4 play. So probably go into the Raiders Knight here. Time Thief Redoer also an option, and he is very low on life points here. Doesn't really need to even do that anyways. So there is the handshake, and yeah, Phantom Knight taking the match 2-1. Unfortunately, our VW player did not open up too well whatsoever, but if you guys want to see more of my content, click on one of the videos popping up at the bottom of the screen right now. And as always, I want to give a special thanks to our Divine level channel members. They are Chadillax84, Pony Stark, Keith Sigers, Daryl Best, and Tweeter0226. Thank you guys so much as always.